Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, Hour 3, 8:06 here on AM 680 WRKO and on 93.7 HD2. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. We're now joined by really one of the Herald's top columnists. She's one of the best at the paper, lone Republican columnist, Holly Robichaud. Holly, thank you so much for coming back on the Kuhner Report.
Good morning, my friend. It's good to be on. Hey, I have a funny story for you.
Sure.
For the weekend, okay? Last night, Lou Venezola announced for state representative down Rockland, Norwell, and Hanover. And the Democratic incumbent hid out in the restaurant spying on the event herself, Rhonda Nyman. Is that not a little bizarre? It was kind of creepy.
I mean, nothing.
The Democrats are a little worried.
Nothing surprises me anymore, Holly.
That's true.
Well, really.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Holly, listen, I read your column today in the Herald. Dems play stalling games with votes. I really want all the listeners I want them to listen to this, because let them know the games that Democrats play to try to prevent from being voting on very key issues so they don't embarrass themselves for the election, and how they play all of these shenanigans up on Beacon Hill so they don't actually have to tackle the tough issues.
Right. I mean, 2 weeks ago we saw that they forbid any debate on welfare or local aid. So they took 26% of the budget off the table. Last week during the budget, the Republicans Mark Lombardo offered an amendment to lower the sales tax back down to 5%. I mean, kind of reasonable considering New Hampshire doesn't have a sales tax. And also lowering the income tax back down to 5%. The higher income tax is only supposed to be temporary. That was back in 1990. And voters said, let's lower it back to 5%, so it should go back to 5%. So these amendments were offered, and what they did was they attached a study committee on, so that what they can say is, oh, I voted for it, but there's a study committee which kills it, because the study will never happen, and so we never lower the income tax, we never lower the sales tax. And so they do this to kill the amendment, and they do it, I mean, it's, look, the Democrats have, Republicans only have 29 out of the 160 seats. If Republicans are so wrong, why not just take the votes? If this whole state is as liberal as the Democrats would like you to believe, then take the votes and kill it. Don't play these games with study committees. They also attached, remember the House and Senate both supported not having in-state tuition for illegal immigrants, and the governor, by executive order, said, I don't care what you say. We're going to give in-state tuition to illegal immigrants. So, Representative Lyons and Lombardo tried to file an amendment to say, let's get rid of, in-state tuition for illegal immigrants, despite what the governor did with the executive order. And they put a study committee right on top of that amendment so that they couldn't stop in-state tuition for illegal immigrants. I mean, if the state is as liberal as they want to tell us, then why not just have a straight up and down vote? The other thing that happened that people should know last week, on Wednesday, when they got done with the budget debate, 3 whole days of working, they said that the House will not be in session this week. There's no full formal session. After 3 days of work, we can't have any session. But the bigger meaning of that is tomorrow is the deadline for the gas tax. They have to pass the gas tax legislation by tomorrow in both the House and Senate and get it to the governor's desk and get it signed, or we have to go out and collect 11,000 more signatures to get it on the ballot. And seeing as they're not going to be in session this week, it's pretty clear we have to go out and get 11,000 more signatures. Those papers will be available on May 21st for everybody. So we kind of already know the results. We don't have to wait till tomorrow. They are going to they're killing our bill in the House. So we have to go out and get those signatures.
Holly, let me ask you this, because you touched on it. If this is such a liberal state, as the Boston Globe keeps telling us, as the Democrats keep telling us, as all these liberal pundits keep telling us, why are the Democrats on Beacon Hill? Why don't they just vote to keep the sales tax what it is? Why don't they just vote to kill the tax cut? Why don't they vote to kill the income tax cut, the sales tax cut? In other words, why Why are they so afraid of their own convictions? Why don't they vote for higher taxes? Why don't they vote for in-state tuition for illegal immigrants? If this state is as liberal as they say it is.
I don't think it is. Okay, and the reason why is they don't want to go up, they don't want to upset the voters. I mean, it's an election year. They don't want to take these votes in an election year. I mean, the state has a surplus. Why can't we give some of that money back to the taxpayers? For the second year in a row, we have a surplus. But they want to spend. I mean, you see last week that the governor kind of placated everybody by saying, I'm accepting Olga Roche's resignation. If that's a resignation, I mean, really? I mean, she's still hanging on till August with her salary? That's not a resignation. That is trying to fool the voters.
Holly.
And this is what they do, whether it's in the House with these study committees or with the governor saying, I accept her resignation, but she's still going to get paid.
Holly,
Jeff, I'd love a firing like that. No responsibilities, but all the pay. I mean, that works out pretty well, doesn't it?
Let me just play devil's advocate, because what the Democrats and the libs are saying, they always defend the indefensible, is, well, you need her to stay on for 3 months as a kind of transition period because you have the interim commissioner coming in. And so you need somebody who knows the job, who knows who to contact, who knows the system, who knows the agency. So you need someone like Olga Roche to help with the transitioning process until August. What do you say to that argument?
I think that they should have, look, they've seen how poorly managed this agency has been. I think that they should be pulling up a more professional person. I mean, the person that they have is, worked over at the registry, and before that was a legislative aide for Jim Fagan, who Sean O'Connell be. I mean, this is not really a professional that should be running the agency. I don't think that you would need to have Olga hanging on like this if you had somebody. Look, this is all about, soft landings. That's what, remember, she would have to be looking for a new job in November anyways because we're going to have a new governor. And so this is just allowing her to continue her salary. I mean, don't you want to shake up? I mean, she has failed. I don't think we want to continue the failed policies that we've had.
Holly, you touched on something a little bit earlier, and I just want to drill a little bit deeper. You say that, and I agree with you, that these Democrats are afraid to actually vote on cutting the sales tax or cutting the state income tax or in-state tuition for illegal, ending in-state tuition for illegal
aid.
Welfare reform. They're afraid of actually having a vote because if the public knows where they vote on these issues, actually the public does want lower taxes. They do want welfare reform. They don't want in-state tuition for illegal immigrants. So my question to you is this. If the electorate is more conservative than the liberal elites in this state say it is, why do the Democrats then keep winning election after election after election?
Well, there's several reasons. One, they have a lot of payroll patriots. All the municipal government employees and state government employees. Remember, we've added 10,000 new state employees to the payroll since 2007. Those are all good payroll patriots. We've got 850,000 people on welfare in the state. When it was Mitt Romney, it was only 250,000.
Whoa.
The odds are stacked against us. Along with that, you'll see
Holly,
that
hold on one second.
The media...
Holly, sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but that to me is a stunning number. I saw it in your column today. You mean to tell me that this state has 850,000 people on welfare?
Yep.
And under Romney it was 200. That was what? That was in 2006. That was 8 years ago.
Yep.
250,000 under Romney, the Mormon, the Republican. But under Mini-Me, it's 800. That's almost 1 million.
I know, and we've only got 6 million people here in the state. And
it's basically, look, let's forget the 150,000. Let's forget the 150,000. Basically, what you're telling me is in the state of Massachusetts, one out of every 6 people is on welfare.
Correct.
Ay.
Well, the Deval Patrick, philosophy has been when in doubt, give it out. And that's why, you see people so much rampant abuse and stuff like that. I mean, I was at the Cohasset Shaw's and I saw this woman with a, Louis Vuitton, handbag and nicely dressed, and, I was talking to her and then she whips out an EBT card and I'm like, you're not looking like you're needing EBT here, but, and she saw the funny look on my face and just kind of stopped talking to me. And I was just, okay, you have a nicer handbag, you're dressed nicer than I am, and you're taking my tax monies, and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. But this is, everybody sees it. Everybody sees it, especially when it's 1 in 6. Yeah, we've got a huge problem.
All right, so you're saying he's got all these new state workers, they're payroll patriots. You have 850,000 welfare deadbeats.
Yep.
That's almost 1 million right there. And then you say, and the media you're saying is in the back pocket of the Democrats.
Well, you saw last week with the, we announced here on your show about the gas tax, the email, the Department of Transportation campaigning out-of-state offices against us. Okay, against us. And, it didn't make the Boston Globe. Okay, it made a lot of other papers. It made all pretty much a lot of the TV stations too. Fox 25, Channel 4 covered it. Okay, but yet the Boston Globe did not pick it up. Didn't write one word about it.
Oh, well, no, they got to protect their friends.
Yeah, but there was an article about, Republicans are in disarray, blah, blah, blah yesterday. But hey, Department of Transportation illegally campaigning out of their offices. And last week during the debate, Secretary Davies said he empowered the Assistant Communications Director to campaign against us. He can't do that. That's illegal.
Holly, so what you're saying, and I got to wrap it up, but what you're basically telling the listeners of Kuhner Country is this. That if we're able to get our message out there on taxes, on spending, on corruption, on in-state tuition for illegal immigrants, on welfare reform, this will resonate with the electorate. That's what the Democrats fear. That's why they have to play their games and bury these issues up on Bacon Hill.
That's right. I mean, and look, hey, you don't have to look for me for proof. You have to look to what the Democrats did, okay? They put all of these issues into a study committee. Why did they do that? Because they want to hide from their votes, okay? And who are they hiding from? They're hiding not from the liberal media, okay? They're hiding from the voters because they know the voters will agree with us. Okay, you look at the polling numbers for our gas tax initiative, 61 to 32. People are with us on this initiative. And I would just one last chance for your vote, for your listeners to make calls into the State House today to say, you know what, you think it's wrong that they're not going to have a vote on this issue. 617-722-2000. Call their legislators. Let them know that they're pretty angry that there's no vote, there's going to be no vote on our initiative.
Holly, the number again is 617-722-2000, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Dynamite stuff, Holly. Great. To everyone out there, go check out her column. Dems play stalling games with votes. Superb column. We've been talking to Holly Robichaud, lone Republican columnist at the Boston Herald. Holly, keep up the good fight.
Your real-life comments section.
And it's time for somebody to call BS on that, and I'm the guy to do it.
This is AM 680 WRKO.
Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 821 here on the great WRKO. All right, there's another huge controversy involving race. And I got to tell you, I honestly believe now we're living in an age of insanity. I'm serious. I really believe that because of the excesses now of political correctness, the inmates are running the asylum. The country's becoming a cultural loony bin. So, there is this sports talk show host. His name is Chris Mad Dog Russo. He's on XM radio, satellite radio, and I guess he's the big guy at this station or channel, whatever that they have on Sirius XM. And so he had his own apparent Donald Sterling moment. This was on Friday. And this has gone, everybody's talking about it. So here you have Mad Dog Russo. He's the host on this show. I guess he's the big guy behind that XM station that they have. And there's a regular caller. Pardon me? Oh, Glenn Ordway's on? Okay, so Glenn Ordway is on that station. So he has nothing to do with this story, but he's on that station. I guess it's a talk station, whatever, 24-hour talk, sports talk. So the caller is a regular caller. We have a lot of regular callers as well. And the Warrior. The caller is just known as the Warrior. He's a regular. And so he asks Mad Dog, he asks Russo, hey, hold on. You run this big sports talk station on Sirius XM radio. Are you like Donald Sterling? Are you a racist? How come you don't have a black host? Roll it, Cooks.
Has it made it take a look look at your hiring practice there at Mad Dog Radio, do you realize that you guys have never had a black host there?
And we're aware of it.
NCR?
Yes, we have. Of course, we don't think we're not stupid. We're not colorblind. Yes, of course, we're aware of that. How about you? What would you like us to do? Would you like us to? There's not a million candidates. Would you like us to put on a black host who is, for whatever, just for the sake of putting on a person of African American, so we can say we have a black host on? Or this is subscription radio that people are paying to listen to people? Or do you want us to see if we can find a black host who is worthy of doing a national talk show?
And all hell has now broken loose. So, the caller, the warrior, calls in and says, hey, Donald Sterling, all this allegations of racism. You guys at the station, you've never had a black host. You don't have a black host. Are you now looking at your own maybe subliminal collective racist consciousness here?
What would you like? Say that you haven't been able to find a black host that's good enough to be on there yet?
Don't you think if we thought there was a warrior? Don't you think if we thought there was a black sports talk show host who knew what was going on and who wanted a job here with us, you don't think we put the person on? What do you think? We're crazy?
Oh my God! You're having your.
First off, warrior, just do this. How many guys out there you think can do national talk shows without commercials? Without commercials. So you're talking for 45, 46 minutes an hour, 3 to 5 hours a day. How many of those people who know enough about sports to converse? How many folks out there you think can do that?
A black host out there that's qualified to work there right now.
Well, if that person is qualified, I haven't seen a resume or I haven't heard a tape.
What do you say that's so?
What was racist about that?
Look. So basically, what the caller is saying, and this is the liberal mentality. We need a token. I need a token. You mean to tell me you don't have a black host? You got to put on a black host, because if you don't have a black host, suddenly you're racist. Well, first of all, think about that. Well, does that mean I need a female host? How about an Hispanic host? How about an Asian host? How about a gay host? How about a Jewish host? How about a Muslim host? Hey, what the hell? How about a Croatian American? Hey, seriously, we're people too. How about a Croatian American host?
You check off a bunch of boxes for me, Jeff.
Yeah, Cooksey.
Canadian, Croatian. Well, bad accent.
Canadian, bad accent, foreigner. I mean, you know how many, I can have 5 shows a day. Then I got Cooksey here. Well, English, Irish. What about you don't want an Irish host now? You're bigoted against the Irish? Brittany's the redhead. How about a redheaded host? I see blondes on ESPN. I see a lot of blonde female hosts. I don't see one redhead.
Don't hire redheads. They're pains in the ass.
I mean...
You laugh because you know it's true.
I mean, there won't be enough slots in the day. So what he's saying is this: hey, look, we're in the business of making money. We want to make a lot of money. You don't think if I had a phenomenal host, I wouldn't put him on? What do I care what the color of the person's skin? I just want a good talent host. And then he hits it. He nails it. You think it's easy doing a national talk show? 3-4 hours a day to be able to talk, to be well read, to converse, to keep that energy level, to be that well prepped? You think anybody just off the street, hey, we need a black person. Hey, come on up. Hey, you want to come on in and do a show? It doesn't work like that. So now, to say we haven't gotten any good qualified resumes, I'm sorry. We hire the best people for the job, and so far, I don't care, black, Korean, Japanese, Asian, I haven't found one. When I find one, I'll put them on. Now, let me just flip it and show you the hypocrisy of the liberal argument. Blacks are roughly 13% of the population, okay? Have you noticed in professional sports, take football, are they 13% of the players? To me, they look more like 50, 60% of the players. How come nobody says, ooh, they're overrepresented? You know, whites are 70% of the population. How come they don't have 70% of the players, the slots, on every football team, or basketball in particular? There are some teams that are I don't care. I just want the best person for the job. But how come there are some teams, they are literally all black? How come Hispanics, Latinos, Asians? How come Asians don't say, how come Jews don't say, hey, where's our slot? How come whites don't say, we're 70%? We should have 7-8 players on every team should be white. Oh, then it's the best player. Oh, best person for the job. Then we don't engage in quotas. Then we don't engage in tokenism. And here I get to the heart of the matter. And this is where I completely agree with Mad Dog. You mean you want me to put somebody on the air who I know is not qualified, who I know doesn't deserve to have his or her own show, simply because of the color of their skin? So that'll knock off somebody who deserves to be there. Check out, that's one injustice. But secondly, even the most greater injustice. It's against the affirmative action person I'm putting on the air. The minority I'm putting on the air. Because I'm not putting you on because you're the best qualified to be on, because you're the best talk show host. I'm putting you on simply and because of the color of your skin, and yes, you have a mouth and you can flap it up and down. Do you know how utterly demeaning and insulting that is?
You know what I always thought was demeaning, Jeff? In the NFL, they have a policy that you have to interview X amount of black people for a head coach job or some front office type of job. I always thought that was demeaning because the guy you're interviewing, who's an African American, obviously knows he's there just so you can say you did it. It has nothing to do with his skill level or whether or not you're wasting his time and your time just to make it look like you're trying.
No, I know. I mean, look, I did a job interview once. Okay, it's a true story. The editor-in-chief was then Wes Pruden. He's now at the editorial page. I don't like Wes Pruden. I never liked Wes Pruden. I've always said this about him. I think he's a racist. I think he's a bigot. I think he damaged the Washington Times considerably. But let that go. Wes was then the editor-in-chief. I was the assistant national editor. There was a huge opening to be the book review editor. The consensus in the newsroom was, because of my academic background, because of all the columns that I had been writing, my commentary writing, the fact that I'd been a university professor, that I was clearly the most qualified person for the job. I walked in, I had an interview with Wes. It was over in 5 minutes. The moment I walked in, I said, this is a token interview. He hasn't even looked at my resume, doesn't even know my resume, because he's already chosen someone else for the job. He ended up choosing a female colleague. She wasn't very good. Not so much because she was a woman, but because he made a promise to a friend, since she was his assistant, that he would hire her no matter what. She did a horrible job as books editor. I think they eventually fired her, but let that go. The point of the matter is this. I've been in interviews where it's literally you're just there as a token to say they did a search when this thing was rigged from the beginning. I felt violated. I felt demeaned. I felt it was a waste of my time. I felt degraded. And it was one of the reasons why I decided to eventually leave the Washington Times. My question to you is this. Is what Chris Mad Dog Russo said racist? That he just hasn't found anybody who's worthy of doing a national talk show? And number two, in all seriousness, have we gone insane? 617-266-6868 is the number. Should minorities be given shows, national talk shows, simply for the color of their skin? I say no. What do you say, Boston? 8:32 on RKO. Let's take it to Angela in the news. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 8:39 here on the great WRKO. Chris Mad Dog Russo, big sports show host, talk host on a radio station, a station on Sirius XM satellite radio, was confronted by a regular caller, the Warrior, in the wake of the Donald Sterling scandal, saying, well, hold on now. How come your station on Sirius XM doesn't have one prominent black talk show host? And Russo responded, I think to me, very logically, very coherently, we're looking, we want the best talent, we just haven't found one who is, quote, worthy of doing a national talk show, quote, unquote. And because of those comments, All hell is now broken loose. Russo is now being condemned as a racist, as a bigot. They're calling it the Donald Sterling of sports talk radio. What did he say that was so racist? It's very difficult, trust me, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, to do a national talk show, to be able to talk continuously for 3-4 hours, and frankly, there are very few people who are good at it. And instead of looking at race, why don't you just look at talent? Call me crazy. 617-266-6868 is the number. What do you think, Boston? I want to hear from you. Ferris, you're up next on RKO, and welcome.
Good day, Jeff.
Hey, Ferris.
I wonder if I could agree with you on the difficulty of a radio talk show host talking continuously for 3 to 4 hours. I think that you should relieve that burden and allow your callers to take more time on your radio show, and then you won't have to talk continuously for 3 or 4 hours. What I'd like to say is that this Benghazi thing has all the earmarks of success for us. I think that your efforts and those of the other people on your side can be rewarded with a resignation or impeachment on this without a doubt, and let's hope for Trey Gowdy.
Ferris, thank you. And in fact, we're going to be talking about Benghazi, important stuff breaking with Walid Shubat at 9 o'clock. You don't want to miss the 4th hour, trust me. Comrade John, how you are, comrade?
Wunderbar. Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but my wife's Colombian, and when she's watching the Spanish news channels and Despierta America, I noticed something. There's no English-speaking people on the Spanish channels, Jeff. I want a job. I'm an American. I'm white. Will they hire me? What's that? Quadriplegic life jobs?
No, that's a very good point. No, I'm serious. Have you noticed that, or take all these states, which I don't mind, don't get me wrong, but these all black stations, local stations. Forget no white people. There's no Hispanics. There's no Asians. There's no nothing. Hey, Howard University. My wife taught there. She was white, but there was like 3-4% of the faculty was white. It was 96% black. Nobody complained. Nobody went on about racism. So look at the double standards. Now, if there is so much racism in sports radio or sports talk in general, tell me, how do you explain Stephen Smith on ESPN? Who I think, by the way, is very good when it comes to sports talk. How do you explain other prominent black hosts who do extremely well? Now, Stephen Smith is there not because he's black. He's there because he knows basketball. He's got the gift of the gab, and he's a skilled talker and talk show host. That's why he's there. So if you got the talent, believe me, they want to make the money. 617-266-6868. This is the thing about talk radio. It's a lot like professional sports. There is no room for affirmative action because the bottom line dominates. It's one of the most cutthroat businesses out there. If you're not good, your ratings tank, you're finished. And ratings know no color, they know no creed, they know no race, no gender. You're good, you succeed. You're not good, you fail. Dave, you're up next. Go.
Yes, Jeff, 2 quick points.
Sure.
Number one, what he said was no worse than my grandmother is a typical white person, or the Cambridge police acted stupidly. So it certainly didn't even rise to that level. Secondly, the United States government is the biggest pusher of racist practices because even government contractors now are mandated, if they want a government contract, to have a certain amount of African Americans and females. It's mandated to have the contract. So don't be surprised, since the radio station has an FCC license, a government-granted license, that they're going to be mandated next to have a certain percentage, or they won't get the license, or it'll get pulled.
Interesting. Notice that white males aren't mandated. Just funny how that works, huh? Paul, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Jeff, look at the educators in the so-called liberal democratic country. I believe they're overwhelmingly women, possibly as high as 70% throughout the country. And then in Massachusetts, I believe 94% of them are white. So what people have to do is scratch below the surface and say, has the government with affirmative action and all these race issues created more racism, broken up the black family, and that you're basically telling black people that they can't become doctors, they can't become educators, because you're telling me they can't have the same intelligence as white people? Who's the real racist out there? And when I look at the NBA and the NFL, I see predominantly black, Christian, heterosexual men. Is there a problem with that? Do we need to put white Muslim homosexuals in the NBA and the NFL?
Bingo, Paul. I mean, buddy, you nailed it. 617-266-6868. Al, you've been patiently holding, Bill, Bill are out. Bill, you're up next. You're on RKO. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Jeff, I was just checking out. I don't see too many, black hosts at RKO, but I know there's a couple Canadians. I guess you guys are the minority. Is that what it is?
Pretty much. We got the affirmative action set aside, Bill.
But hey, what?
By the way, Barry's Canadian too. Do you know? There's a bit of a Canadian mafia here, Bill.
Kind of is, yeah. But there isn't that many minority talk show hosts on the right side anyway. So I mean, there just isn't that many people, that many minorities on the right as there is.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this: what do you think of Herman Cain? Do you think he's an Uncle Tom?
He changed over time. I don't know. He's not, but there's not that many. There just isn't that many.
No, but I mean, is Herman Cain, is he an Uncle Tom to you? He's got a big show in Atlanta.
Yeah, in Atlanta. So what's that, between Boston and Atlanta? Is that the only one you can have?
No, I mean, there's others. I mean, you have Armstrong Williams.
But how many are there compared with
you have Larry Elders. He's got a nationally syndicated show.
How many, though, Jeff?
Yeah, but I mean, Bill, again, you see, now you're getting into bean counting.
Oh, but of 1,000, what is it, maybe, 20, 30?
Well, Bill, what number would make you happy? What's the magic number that would make you happy?
There is no magic number. There isn't. It's just a fact. That's all it is, just a fact.
Well, let me ask you this. Outside of the Reverend Rat, you tell me on MS Left BC, how many black hosts do they have?
Hey, they got their one, How many?
That's what I mean. You see, you
what do they got on Fox News?
Well, what they have on Fox News, I see a lot of black. They have Juan Williams, who's a contributor.
I think Fox has a 0. At least MSNBC has 1. But Fox has...
but you see, Bill, now you're kind of making my argument, because Fox News just has better quality program than MSNBC. So they don't play the affirmative action game. They want the best person. They want the best person for the job.
0. That's what they have.
Let me ask you this, Bill, because you're so obsessed with race. Why don't you see more people with red hair on having shows? Do you? I swear. Do you know that Brittany? I'm being serious. And a lot of other people with red hair. Redheads tell me they feel constantly discriminated against. So why do you focus on skin color? Why are you so obsessed with the color of everybody's skin?
I'm not obsessed at all with it. I'm just stating the facts. That's all.
Well, but I mean, you seem to imply that there's a problem.
Just with the Canadians. That's all.
Bill, how many white players on the Los Angeles Lakers?
I don't know. Is there a couple?
How many white players are in starting lineups in the NBA, Bill?
There isn't many. It's a...
but Bill, we have to be representative of the general population, Bill.
Hey, how many black owners are there?
We have to be tolerant, Bill. We have to practice diversity, Bill.
How many black owners are there?
Yeah, but you see, that's the point.
Because the white guys, they leading the plantation?
No, that's the point. Forget the plantation. Slavery's been over for 150 years. Stop playing the race card garbage. Because you know what you do? When you play the race card, that's the Balkans. That's Eastern Europe. That's Rwanda. That's what they do. They go back 100, 150, 200 years, and one group says, oh, they did this to us. The other group says, oh, they did that to us. And before you know it, you have sectarian violence.
And where are all the black owners? Tell me where all the black owners are.
Listen, there's a lot of rich black people in this country. Ask Magic Johnson to buy a team.
How many black owners?
Hold on. Ask Michael Jordan to buy a team. Ask Oprah Winfrey to buy a team. Yeah, listen, the dear leader's going to make a lot of money when he comes out. Ask him to buy a team. Tell him to put his money where his mouth is.
Hey, but those are the facts, There's nothing new. It's just those are the facts.
But the facts are irrelevant. Again, it's like me saying there aren't any white players on starting lineups in the NBA. And what, is there a racist conspiracy against whites?
No, it is. I agree on that. It's quality players. Whoever's the best player should play.
So quality owners and quality talk show hosts, no?
Well, like I said, a couple.
Okay, bye, Bill. Thanks. 617-266-6868. Every time he calls, I swear, it's like he's glutton for a punishment. I win, he loses. Al, you're up. I don't have time? Okay, Al, John, Pete, hang on. I'll get to all of your calls next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 8:54 here on the great WRKO. Al, you've been patiently holding. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Al.
This is my second time calling. I called about a week ago, and I found it to be a very negative interaction, and I vowed I wouldn't call again. But I'm calling this morning just to chide you and make a slight correction. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for Holly and her writings in the Boston Herald, but I understood you to say that she's the only Republican writer on the Boston Herald?
No, the title of her column is called The Lone Republican. That's the title of her column. When you read her column, it has her name, it has a picture, and above it is called The Lone Republican. That's the name of her title.
No, I thought you implied that she was the only Republican there, because I've got a lot of respect for Howie Carr, and I certainly...
No, of course. I mean, I know that. I mean, Howie's a colleague of mine.
You know what? I'll get off the phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. No, she's known as the lone Republican columnist. Yeah, the guy waited on the line for half an hour, Cooks? 42 minutes. The guy waited 42 minutes. I mean, really, honestly, Al, I swear, God bless you, man. Boy, call anytime, Al. You're more than welcome. He's a guy like a studious, diligent fact checker. No, literally, that's the name of her column. That's why I call her the lone Republican columnist. Nia, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. How many Asian American call your show?
Oh, jeez. I don't know, Nia. We don't keep count, my friend.
Okay, I just have some word for those liberal that complain about racism in this country, okay? What is the definition of minority? Is it African American? Is it minority? How about Asian? Asian is the least population in this country as far as the minority, right?
So you're saying, Nia, that you think the biggest or the smallest minority, the most minority of the minority are the Asians?
Exactly. Right?
And Nia, do you want affirmative action for Asian Americans?
No.
Because you guys want to, I mean, I take it you're Asian, correct?
I think affirmative action is the wrong thing to do because, you go by what you can do or you go by merit. The better you get, the better chance you can get into any college. You don't, they say is racism. You don't go by color. Yet they use affirmative action to get, colored people, so-called colored people, into the higher education. Is it white? It's not a color?
Well, Nia, I mean, Asian Americans won a big case out in California. They're the ones, and I back them 110%, who blew up affirmative action. And the reason why they blew it up, and they were completely right, is it disproportionately impacts Asian Americans. In fact, if you really want to get technical about it, it disproportionately impacts Asian Americans, whites, but in particular Jews. Those are the three groups most hurt by affirmative action, especially in admissions to universities. And so Asian Americans are saying, I don't get it. We have higher test scores. We have much higher grades. We clearly deserve to get into the most elite, prestigious universities in California, but we're being denied admissions or slots because of this quota system where they're awarding it to other students, Hispanics and blacks primarily, simply because of the color of their skin. They have much lower grades, much lower test scores. It's wrong. It's discriminatory. In fact, affirmative action is racism. Except now, instead of institutionalized racism against blacks, it's institutionalized racism against whites, Jews, and Asian Americans. It's wrong. We should be equal under the law and colorblind. Call me crazy. Pete, you're up next. Go.
Hey, Chef, how are you?
Hey, Pete.
It's like a half-hour conversation, 30 seconds, but Alan West, who everybody knows, I'm a former state representative. We have a big dinner every year, and last year he was the guest host. And before the dinner, we had a meeting, and he said that the most important thing that we have to overcome that's killing us is PC. And I think you can do a show every day on it until more people start to realize how it's killing us. I went as far as to go as my vanity plate is NPC, but that's the single biggest issue.
Amen. Political correctness will be the death of America. Coming up next, Wally Shubat has another huge revelation regarding Benghazi. Don't touch that dial. 8:59 on RKO. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 9:07 here on the great WRKO, AM 680, and now on 93.7 HD2, 617-266-6868. Benghazi Rising. House Speaker John Boehner, a.k.a. Bonehead, now under increasing pressure from many Americans, from conservatives, from House Republicans, on Friday afternoon, finally acquiesced. He is now going to order the creation of a select special committee to investigate Benghazi in the wake of the smoking gun email, whereby Ben Rhodes, Deputy National Security Advisor, White House spokesman, sends off an email, we now have it, to key people within Obama's political inner circle, directing Susan Rice and others to blame the attacks on the anti-Muslim video and not on Al-Qaeda, which we now know is a complete lie and a deliberate attempt to construct a phony political narrative to deceive the American people in the middle of an intense re-election campaign. However, Waleed Shubat, one of the most respected experts on the Middle East, in particular on radical Islam, also has new explosive revelations about that email, and in particular, one member of the group that received that email. We're now joined by Waleed Shubat from Shubat.com. Waleed, thank you so much for coming back on the Kuhner Report.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
So, Waleed, so apparently a lot of people were on that email, about 10, 12 people, most of them tied to Obama's political staff. You had a staffer for Hillary Clinton, but according to your investigation, you say there's another person on that email, and it should give a lot of Americans some serious pause. Take it from there, Waleed.
Well, the smoking gun email that reveals, who instructed Susan Rice to blame the Benghazi attack on a video, it exposes one recipient named Mehdi K. Al-Hassani. He goes by Mehdi K. Al-Hassani as well as Mehdi C. Al-Hassani. In the government, he is Mehdi K. Al-Hassani, but he is Mehdi C. Al-Hassani in reality. Now, Al-Hassani was the leader of the Muslim Student Association, a Muslim Brotherhood front. Why would this guy be a recipient to the email and work for the president? He was the president, not just anybody, the president of the Muslim Student Association, that is basically linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. There's ample evidence, even from the FBI, the construction of the Muslim Brotherhood at university campuses. And he attended also the sister mosque of the Islamic Society Boston Cultural Center. Let's not forget what that mosque is about. That mosque that basically was attended also by the Boston Marathon bombers. Now, it's a mystery how Al-Hassani slipped through the cracks to become a special assistant to the Office of the Chief of Staff, National Security, Council Staff, and the Executive Office of the President of the United States. That we do not know. But how it slipped through the cracks is obvious that many of the Islamists, the case of Huma Abedin, and this should vindicate Michelle Bachmann, who brought the issue to front, that Muslim Brotherhood agents are infiltrated into the government, and she was basically shouted out by everybody. As to Al-Hassani's affiliation to the Islamist groups, and the proof is found in a document published by the Islamic Institute of Boston. It's entitled Participants at the Citizen Dialogue Group. One of the participants of this U.S. State Department initiative was Mehdi al-Hassani. In fact, in his bio, his own bio, al-Hassani identifies himself as a student of a George Washington University who was the president of the Student Muslim Association from 2005 and 2006, and also served an interim in both the White House and the U.S. State Department. Now let's understand, what is this Muslim Student Association in George Washington University? It was founded by none other than Abdul Rahman al-Amoudi. Abdul Rahman al-Amoudi was a convicted terrorist. He was involved in terrorism. And in fact, as we disclosed, the Deputy Chief of Staff, Advisor Secretary Hillary Clinton, Huma Abedin, served on that same board in the George Washington University MSA in 1997. And let's not forget, it was none other than Anwar al-Awlaki, who was the inspiration of the Fort Hood jihadist Nidal Malik Hassan. He became a chaplain for that MSA chapter, which al-Hassani led, not just was a follower, but led it. Al-Hassani also worked for the Arab American Institute, which actively collaborates with the Arab American Action Network and CARE. The Arab American Action Network was founded in Chicago by none other than Rashid Khalidi, a Palestinian, who was the director of the PLO press agency at a time when the PLO was designated as a terrorist organization. Al-Khalidi is also a friend of President Barack Hussein Obama. So now we link the dots. But there is more. This citizen dialogue excursion, which al-Hassani was involved in, to Europe, was accompanied by Yahya Basha and Farah Pandis, both of whom have access to the halls of the U.S. power for years. Basha was part of the delegations that had access to the Oval Office during the Bush administration. That's in the days of after the 9/11, and currently sits on the board of the highly suspect Syrian Emergency Task Force with former Dar al-Hijra Mosque Chairman Bassam Istwani. Now, Bassam Istwani, we revealed, collaborates also with none other than the top spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi. We show the photos. We have done reports on Bassam Istwani. All this circle is linked together, and there is extensive information for people to find out on the website, which we revealed in the last 2 weeks. Istwani, of course, approved the hiring of Al-Awlaki as the imam of his mosque. So it's all very interlinked and very obvious that these people are infiltrators, and I've known this since the days I myself was involved, in that many of these Islamists were talking about working as interns at the White House. And of course the Muslim Brotherhood agenda is very obvious, to intervene into the U.S. agenda, from the Ground Zero Mosque to Huma Abedin to all these circles, as to destroy the United States from within, as very well revealed in their documents, in the Muslim Brotherhood documents.
We are talking with Waleed Shubat. You can read more of his incredible investigative reporting at shubat.com. He is one of the leading experts on the Middle East and on Islamic terrorism in the world. Waleed, I just want to focus back on Benghazi for a second and on that explosive smoking gun email. So what you're telling us is one of the recipients of that email was in fact somebody with deep ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, correct?
That's correct.
Why would somebody like that be on the receiving? Why would they be on the receiving end of that email?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer, but it is obvious that if you look at the intents, which we revealed right after Benghazi from Egypt itself, that this video was not the issue, even from the Islamist movement itself in Egypt, that the Salafists and the Muslim Brotherhood had concocted an idea of basically twisting the arms of the U.S., the Europeans, to make it illegal to speak anything against Islam. So they did want a video. And so no matter what happens, the video became a crucial point. And with many people working with the president, as well as the president probably himself, if we look at the family, I mean, this is something we need to study about the president himself, his family connections, his brother Malik, his other brothers, his uncle Saeed. The whole family is really pro-Muslim Brotherhood and pro-Salafist and pro-Wahhabist. So, it looks like now we know this issue came not from Ben Rhodes, it came from the president himself. The president himself had this agenda. And that's something the American people have to come to the forefront to basically face. That we do have a president whose allegiances is not for the United States when it comes to these issues. He covered up the whole thing. We all knew it was Ansar al-Sharia. The State Department at first said it was Ansar al-Sharia. All these notes were scrubbed off as a result of this. Now we know who scrubbed off all this information. Ansar al-Sharia was disclosed by the Libyan government. When we first even brought documents that leaked from the Libyan government showing Ansar al-Sharia agents, even the Egyptian government at the time of Mohammed Morsi was president of Egypt. We know that it was Ansar al-Sharia. We know the involvement of terrorism. But all that was scrubbed away. Why would we cover the issue of terrorism? Because the issue at the forefront is not the terrorism or the war on terror, but the issue on the forefront is to basically begin to twist the arms of the legal system in the U.S. So the First Amendment is undermined, and we cannot say anything against Islam. And that's the goal. That was the goal from both sides. The Islamists,
that's interesting. Okay, now, Waleed, I want you to develop this a little bit more. We're talking to Waleed Shubat. He's written several books. He's considered one of the world's leading experts on Islamic terrorism, on the Middle East. He, in fact, was a former terrorist himself as a young man. He then converted to Christianity. He renounced his terrorism ties. He has extensive knowledge of the ideology of Islam, the terrorist networks of Islam. You can read his stuff on Shubat.com. Waleed, this is the $64,000 question. We have the attack September 11, 2012. 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens, are murdered in a coordinated, premeditated terrorist attack. Why did the White House cover it up? Why did they blame the anti-Muslim video? My theory was that they wanted to save the president's political bacon because he was campaigning that Osama bin Laden was dead, Al-Qaeda was on the run, this was 7 weeks from the election, and so he couldn't have this blow up in his face, so they had to find a distraction, and the anti-Muslim video was the distraction. Do you agree with that theory, or do you have another theory?
Well, I would definitely agree with that theory, but I would like to add that President Obama's affiliation was always Muslim Brotherhood. Why would he go to Egypt and give the green light to cause a revolution in Egypt? I mean, when did the Muslim Brotherhood become all of a sudden a viable entity to become accepted in the Egyptian government, which the Egyptian people themselves finally had to oust? And Obama is not pro-Assisi, is he? He's always been calling for leniency. And of course, you had even Mohammed Morsi, just right around before the attack, was demanding the release of the sheikh. So there's all kinds of things involved. The release of the blind sheikh behind the first bombing, Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, that's involved, and we have evidence in which, it doesn't make any sense for Mohammed Morsi to be saying that the United States should release the blind sheikh. And it's very likely that the attack in Benghazi was regarding the release of the sheikh that went, was botched. In other words, it ended up with the death of Stevens through smoke inhalation. So we need to look at the whole thing from its inception, from the beginning, of who was involved. Not just the president of the U.S., but the Egyptian government as well. And why is the United States, or why is President Obama so keen on aiding the Muslim Brotherhood, which tells us that Obama's affiliation really is to an Islamist kind of mindset. And that is something that is the unpardonable sin to speak on a radio program, to say that the president is affiliated with his Muslim family, in which we have recordings even. We were the first to establish recordings of his uncle Saeed Obama, who says every member in the Obama family is Muslim. Well, that would include the president. So this is the, unpardonable question to ask. What is really the affiliation of President Obama himself? And this is why this email is so important. It goes right to the top. Who told Ben Rhodes to basically cover up this whole thing? It had to have been the president himself.
And Waleed, your further point, and I think a really major point, is that this man, this producer of this video, was sent to prison for a year. He was basically imprisoned for defaming the Muslim religion and the Prophet Muhammad, and that was a tremendous blow to the First Amendment. So you're saying, in that sense, if you want the creeping Islamicization of America, it worked. They blamed the video, they blamed the attacks on him, on the video, they sent the man to prison, and basically the First Amendment took a major blow. Am I misreading your opinion here?
No, you're not. In fact, we talked last time. It was about how the government was spying at me. In fact, I have a recording by the filmmaker himself, Naqula Basil Naqula. How he found my contact information is unbelievable. He called me up to twist my arm, to be silent. And, he contacted me. Now, this man, Naqula Basil Naqula, how would I know about him? Well, he was a very close friend of my first cousin, Iyad Salameh. Now, he was a collaborator with the federal government. In fact, this is not just my statement. This is in the court records when he was released in 2009. He made a plea bargain that he would help the government to catch my cousin, Iyad Salameh. Now, what happened? Iyad Salameh was accidentally caught in Canada. The Canadian government, Peel Police, we have the emails from the Canadian government, contacted me, wondering why the U.S. did not want to take Iyad Salameh into custody. He's very wanted, and that was the plea bargain the movie maker made. Now, why would the U.S. not want this man? He was the bone that they're looking for. He was the reason why that Naqula Basil Naqula was released. So it is very likely that Naqula Basil Naqula had been working with the government for other nefarious reasons. We do not know that. But what we do know is that he became an agent, a federal agent, when he began to collaborate with the federal government, the U.S. federal government, and the FBI. And that's all on record. That is all proven fact. People could take a look at the reports that we reported, in which the filmmaker collaborated with the federal government. Now, as far as the extent of that collaboration regarding the movie, we do not know. But what we do know is that the extent of collaboration to catch a notorious character by the name of Iyad Salameh, who happens to be my first cousin. How would he find my information? Why would he be calling me? Why would he be wanting to twist my arm to be silent? This is becoming very, very suspect, and this is why I'm concerned.
Waleed, another major issue regarding Benghazi was that we could have rescued Ambassador Stevens, well, maybe not Ambassador Stevens or Sean Smith, but definitely Glenn Dougherty and Ty Woods, that they should have sent in. This went on for 6, 7, 8 hours. The attack took place over a long period of time. We had an Air Force base less than an hour away in Sicily. How come military reinforcements were never sent? Why do you think Obama gave the order for the military to stand down?
Well, that is a very difficult question to answer. We do not have information as why the president or whoever asked them to stand down. But what we do understand is that this was an attack by Ansar al-Sharia, which is affiliated to the Muslim Brotherhood as well. So the success of the attack was accomplished. Now, what we do know is that whatever the president ordered, that is the stopping or whatever, it aided basically the terrorists of completing their mission. And this is basically a betrayal of the American people, literally. It's a betrayal, and this is why we've been speaking about this for how long, and nothing's been done. Now this, like we say in the Middle East, one day the snow melts, and all the crap under will be revealed. Now the crap under is becoming very revealed.
What do you make of the Select Committee? Do you think if Republicans push ahead, ultimately, Waleed, what do you think they're going to find? Are they going to find a criminal conspiracy by the Obama White House to cover up what took place in Benghazi and deceive the American people? Do you think ultimately that's what Republicans will find?
Absolutely. You dig deeper. You will find out even within the State Department, within the federal government, within the FBI, an infiltration, a major infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood, which Michelle Bachmann brought with tremendous evidence. Yet she was basically yelled at by every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the Congress, and she was basically shut. She was shut up because she did not, they did not want basically the embarrassments that this causes. It causes a major embarrassment, not just on the Democrats, but also on some Republicans. So it is very, very interesting to know that this infiltration has been going on for years. We've been monitoring this. And there's many agencies that monitor such infiltration. But the infiltration stems from the top. Why would this guy Al-Hassani be working for the president? Why would he surround himself with nefarious characters who are pro-Muslim Brotherhood? Why would Rashad Al-Husseini be writing his, be involved in writing his speech in Cairo, in the historic speech? Why would Huma Abedin work for Hillary Clinton 24/7? Who we know her mother is not just a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, but a leader in the Muslim Sisterhood organization. This has been very ironclad case in which the infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood has, began years ago into the government. And when Obama took office, it just basically mushroomed. It mushroomed to a point that the Muslim Brotherhood began to dictate policy in the United States.
Waleed, I got about 2 minutes. You've talked about the president's connections to the Muslim Brotherhood and to radical Islamists. You've mentioned Huma Abedin. The Clintons, if they should come back to power in 2016, Bill and Hillary Clinton, how deep are their ties to Islamists and to the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, if you look at Bassam Istwani, who was very involved with the Muslim Brotherhood, this has been improved by several articles which we published, in which it shows an exchange between Bill Clinton and Bassam Istwani, who is an affiliate of none other than the top spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood himself. And you have those emails back and forth between Bill Clinton, in which the Muslims wanted to basically catapult Bill Clinton and say what he did for the Muslim community. Now, Bill Clinton refused to meet with Bassam Istwani at the Dar al-Hijra Mosque because of its notorious character. So it shows that Bill Clinton knew that Dar al-Hijra Mosque, which Bassam Istwani ran, is basically nefarious and very suspect. Yet the meetings and the collaboration between emails and between private meetings, and we have the photos to prove it, between Bassam Istwani, who is a leader in the Muslim Brotherhood, and Bill Clinton, has been established in an ironclad case. So we show that not only with Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton, but also with Bill Clinton himself and his relationships with Bassam Istwani and Islamist nefarious characters, knowingly that this is a nefarious group, yet continued to cooperate with these entities, knowing that these are a major problem. President Obama also knows those are a major problem. Why would you allow Muslim Brotherhood agents to work for you? Not just at the federal level, but the state level, State Department level. From the Capitol Hill to the State Department to the President's Oval Office, those, very shady characters not only work as employees, but also visit. And also, his own brother visits him, President Obama. We know who Malik Obama is. This has been established. He dons a Hamas kafiyah in an event in Yemen. He works with nefarious characters galore, not only in Egypt, but in Sudan as well. He's an employee. His brother is an employee of the Sudanese government. Now the Sudanese government is a registered terror state by our own rules. Why would the president's brother be working there and visiting the president and still everything is hunky-dory family-wise, where the president never denounced him?
We have been talking with Waleed Shoebat, a truth teller, a whistleblower, one of the leading experts on radical Islam, terrorism, Muslim terrorism in the Middle East. Go to shoebat.com, literally shoe, S-H-O-E, bat like a baseball bat, B-A-T, shoebat.com. You can read all of his articles, all of his blogs. The information there is impeccable. It's deep. It's profound. And my friends, it's important. Waleed, dynamite stuff as usual. Take care. We'll have you back on again soon.
God bless.
God bless you, Waleed. 617-266-6868 is the number. You've now heard Waleed Shubat. What do you think was the real reason behind the Benghazi attacks and the cover-up? John Boehner now wants a select committee. Democrats are threatening to boycott it. Should Democrats boycott it? Should we have a select committee? Should we find out everything that happened in Benghazi? All of your calls next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text us at 680-680-941 here on the great WRKO. Boehner finally caved to immense pressure. He is now going to form a select committee to investigate Benghazi. It will have full subpoena power. They will even have access to classified documents. Do you think now, with a select committee, the midterm elections coming in November, is this now turning into Obama's Watergate? 617-266-6868. Donna, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Wow. You're on the top, Jeff. Remember when we've talked in the past about the two forms of jihad, the violent, which was Benghazi, and the reason why the emails were sent to Hassani and why the Muslims are well established on the inside of our government is part of the stealth jihad that Horowitz talked about. It's subtle and patient civilization jihad. They couch it in nice words to make us think that they're reasonable and moderate. Benghazi was the violent jihad. The cover-up, yes, it was an election strategy, but under the stealth jihad theory, it lets the terrorists get away with it. When you cover up Benghazi, you let the terrorists get away with it, and it's one more step towards jihad success. Now, I heard in a speech recently that Obama on TV said the future does not belong to those who oppose or are against Allah. I couldn't remember which word it was.
Who blaspheme. What he said was who blaspheme.
Oh, blaspheme. Okay. There's many different names for God around the world, so I'm not arguing against the name. What scares me is the goal of jihad is to force us all to be under Islam in the future. And he says the future does not belong to those who blaspheme Allah. Well, we're not blaspheming them, but they interpret anything that says what they're doing under jihad is bad. They call that blasphemy, and they're out to kill us. Under violent or civilized jihad, the goal is to put us all under it. So my theory is that the uncovering it up, it lets the terrorists get away with it, and it's one more step towards success.
Donna, as usual, bingo. You nailed it.
Jeff.
You nailed it.
Thank you. Nothing on top.
Thank you so much, Donna. Look, this is such a big story on so many levels. What we heard from Waleed Shubat, and look, this is his strength and I think his weakness. He knows the area and the world and the culture and the history and the religion so well, he almost gets lost in the weeds. He's giving out all these names, all these players with the Arabic pronunciations, and I think he loses some of the listeners because they're just even Brittany and I are looking at each other like, whoa, these names are just flying like just, left, right, and center. The big point is this. I did not know this. One of the recipients on that Ben Rhodes email was a man with deep ties, known public ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. And in fact, if you look at it from the point of view of establishing Sharia law, undermining the First Amendment, that anti-Muslim video producer was sent to prison for a year. They said it was for a parole violation, but in fact, we all know what it was. He produced the anti-Muslim video. He blasphemed Allah. And he spent a year in prison. That cut the legs out from underneath the First Amendment. The agenda is now becoming so obvious. That's why they blamed the video. That's why they covered it up. Because everybody knows that this was tied deeply to the Muslim Brotherhood and to Al-Qaeda. Now, don't you want to know about your president's associations with all of these members of radical Islam in the Muslim Brotherhood? His brothers, his uncle, his cousins, half his family, Huma Abedin. Hillary Clinton's top policy advisor, extremely close friend. She went with Hillary everywhere where Hillary went. Now people within the White House's own inner political circle. You start digging. This thing makes Watergate look like a Sunday picnic. So now the Democrats are worried. Remember, it's not just the House that's going to be investigating. If the Republicans win the midterms in November and take back the Senate, you're going to have a joint committee. They're going to be putting in the screws from both directions, like a pincer movement. So California Democrat, uber liberal, Adam Schiff, now went on the airwaves and said Democrats must boycott this select committee at all costs. Roll it, Brittany.
I don't think it makes sense really for Democrats to participate. I think it's just a tremendous red herring and a waste of taxpayer resources.
Ooh. But investigating the botched execution in Oklahoma, that's not a red herring. No, going after Cliven Bundy with 200 armed federal agents, no, that's a great use of federal resources and federal dollars. But to investigate the terrorist murder and cover-up of 4 Americans in one of the most successful Al-Qaeda attacks in years, no, that's just not a good use of resources. It's a red herring. It's a red herring. So now he says that Democrats should boycott the committee completely. Just have the Republicans run the committee and try to expose it and make it portray it like a partisan witch hunt. So then Republican Congressman Peter King says, you guys want to play that game? Okay, but I'll tell you this, the big losers are going to be you, the Democrats. Roll it, Brittany.
Well, we still have not found out what happened. I mean, there's a very basic question is where was the president that night? I mean, this was an attack on Americans. Americans are being killed, and almost 2 years later, we still don't know where the president is. I mean, this is, to me, it's just unbelievable that a situation like that could exist. Also, the full extent of the White House involvement, the State Department involvement, the CIA involvement. I want to know, where was General Petraeus? I mean, he was the director of the CIA, and he was the one who came before our committee on September 12th, I guess it was, and we asked him for these talking points, and when the talking points came out, and later on we saw the emails, General Petraeus was not even involved in the preparation of these talking points. They were prepared by Michael Morrell, who was the number 2. And I don't know where he got the authority to do that, why he did it. My dealings with General Petraeus is he was a micromanager, and why he gave that responsibility up to Morrell. And when they were finally presented to Petraeus at the end, General Petraeus said that this was not what Congress was looking for, but he was going to sign off on them anyway. I think there's real questions. How did Morrell get involved? Why was Petraeus out of it? Was the administration aware, or was Petraeus aware of the fact that he had the scandal hanging over him in Afghanistan? Why did Morrell deal with Ben Rhodes in the White House? Why did he deal with Hillary Clinton's top person in the State Department? Why did they go into business later on?
Basically, it now appears it's obvious David Petraeus was being blackmailed because he was having an affair. And so if the Democrats, and Peter King will later say that, if the Democrats want to boycott the select committee, just more time, more opportunity for Republicans to interview witnesses, grill witnesses, and investigate more and ask more questions. And this thing, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It took 2 years, over 2 years for Watergate to eventually bring down Nixon. In fact, 2.5 years. This is like Watergate. It's drip, drip, drip. But eventually, it leads to one man. Barack Hussein Obama. 9:49 on the great WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. Select committee has now been called. Good idea, bad idea. All of your calls next.
And you don't say, well, gee, we don't know, it's blah, blah, blah. We failed. The administration failed. The president failed. And, worst of all, this is part of a pattern for President Obama. He can't make timely decisions. He has no courage. Whether it's Benghazi or Syria or Iran or now Vladimir Putin, for the first time in our history, we've had great presidents, we've had terrible presidents, we have most presidents somewhere in between, but this is the first time we've ever had a president who's an outright coward.
Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 9:54 here on WRKO. That's Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, he's a columnist. He's also an analyst for Fox News. He's completely right. The dear leader, at a minimum, was a coward for not even calling in military reinforcements. They didn't even try. Never mind the incredible cover-up and campaign of deception and manipulation that took place really for weeks and up until this day. And here's the final point, just to show you how dishonest the Democrats are being about all of this, and obstructionists and stonewalling. When Congress asked for every document relating to Benghazi, the administration refused to hand over the Ben Rhodes email. And when they finally did, most of it was redacted, blacked out. The only reason why we found out about the Ben Rhodes email was not because the administration was complying with Congress, was because a Judicial Watch, a watchdog group, got it through the courts through a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request. I will bet you dollars to donuts. There are many more emails that will show not only the president's men, but the president himself was directly involved in the conspiracy to deceive and lie to Congress, to the American people, and to the family members of the victims. 617-266-6868 is the number. Laura, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on RKO, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you. We love you. Thank you for all you do for us.
Oh, thank you, Laura. My pleasure.
Couple of quick points. Yes, there should be the select committee. Boehner should appoint Democrats, as well as obviously Republicans. The Democrats that won't serve, their place should be marked with their nameplate, an empty chair. Let the viewers, let the media know who was not serving. Don't make it look like it's a strictly Republican. These folks choose not to get to the bottom of what's going on in our country. That's my thought.
Thank you so much, Laura. Very well said. Arthur, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Good morning. Get Jeff real quickly because I know it's the end of the show.
Sure.
From day one, any streetwise person or a little bit of intelligence who thought that a person by the name of Barack Hussein Obama was a Catholic or something other than a Muslim has to be insane.
Well said. Bobby, you're up next. Go.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Bobby.
Yeah, first I want to praise you and thank you for your incredible courage to face these topics. It's absolutely incredible. You are truly a patriot.
Oh, thank you, Bobby. Thank you so much, sir.
I have two quick questions. Do you know why our CIA agents were in Benghazi to begin with? And B, do you know why Ambassador Stevens was dispatched so readily to that consulate? And I'm going to hang up and listen.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. Our CIA agents were in Benghazi because, remember, they were there on the ground. We had toppled Gaddafi. That took place throughout all of 2011. That, to me, was an illegal war. It had no authorization from Congress, but let that go. So we were there. We had supplied Al-Qaeda. We had supplied the radical jihadists with weapons and with training. So that's one of the reasons why they were there. The second reason why is the war in Libya took place in Benghazi to save people of Benghazi. That's why the compound was so important. And the major reason why the CIA was there was because they were running an illegal gun smuggling, weapon smuggling operation, arming Al-Qaeda in Syria by taking weapons from Benghazi, shipping them to Turkey, and then across the Turkish border into Syria. That's why the CIA were there. Now, the key point is this. The station chief, the person responsible, the CIA in Libya, said from the beginning it was Al-Qaeda, nothing to do with the Muslim video. The Libyan government said nothing to do with the anti-Muslim video. They made it up to save the president's re-election. My friends, I gotta go. You've been listening to Boston's Bulldozer. Trust me, this story's not going to go away. I'm going to stay on it like a hawk. And remember, together, we're beating liberals one day at a time. See you all tomorrow, same time, same place, on the great WRKO.